All right. So on this topic, we're doing another installment of what's the best way for me to start a cybersecurity career. And what drives this post today is almost every day I get the question, how do I start a cybersecurity career? And then on top of that, it's either that or people will come to me and say, hey, I want to start a cybersecurity career. Like, that's cool. How much experience you got? Never fails. It'll be something along the lines of, oh man, I've been working on computers in my uncle's garage for about 2-3 years, man. I'm ready. It's like, I don't think you're ready. So, but what I wanted to show the audience is you can make a lot of good money in cybersecurity. And what jumped out to me was I saw this post in one of my cybersecurity groups on LinkedIn. And here it is, boom. Bill Brandstetter. I've actually reached out to him, and hopefully I'll get him on the podcast pretty soon. He's just really busy right now, but he told me eventually. But here it is, hot cyber jobs, incident response investigators, and detection analysts, senior positions available, $115,000 to $150,000 annually, salary. Pretty good. So those people that are always asking me, how do I get into cybersecurity, or telling me I want to start cybersecurity, so this is proof the money that you can make, right? You can make 6 figures. And this is saying that it's on site, Alexandria, Virginia. They will pay for certification boot camp if you don't already have it. And we'll show you why they're saying they will pay for your certification boot camp if you don't have it. So we'll just switch to the actual job posting. Here's the posting right here. So in that first paragraph, it's telling you that this position, the Incident Response Investigator, is supporting the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. That's huge, right? And for anyone who's ever had to get a patent approved or a trademark approved, that's supporting that government office. And then I'll let you take it from there, Mr. JJ.
So the job announcement reads, under this program, the Insignia team will work for the federal employees to transform the U.S. Patent and Trade Office's insider threat detection, response, and mitigation capabilities to improve the security posture of the organization. These services include detecting and rapidly responding to insiders who pose a threat to the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of all controlled unclassified information, CUI, stored, processed, and disseminated by the U.S. Patent and Trade Organization.
That's pretty major. Break that down. Tell the audience what this position is doing.
At the bare minimum, when you read through it all, this aligns with what we would probably look at as a SOC position or Security Operations Center position. Within a Security Operations Center, there are numerous things that you can do. And threat detection is one of those specialized type of positions. But it is really important to have several years of experience just to get to this point.
Good point. And you bring up a good point, right? So let's talk experience. So that's just threat detection, investigation. Really what it boils down is you're working in the SOC, Security Operations Center, right? Those of us that have, a strong cyber background, cybersecurity, you know what a SOC is, either a SOC or a SCIF, something along those lines, right? And I never even thought about it. What is the difference between a SOC and a SCIF? I guess the classification that you need to have, right? Or the clearance you need to have.
Yes, absolutely. It definitely deals with the sensitivity level or the level of security information that you're exposed to or will be exposed to. A SCIF is a sensitive compartmented information facility, which means that the amount of classification and or the handling of the information is dealt with on much of a higher and more fragile level, more layers of security, more of a burdens of proof that individuals will have to show that they are trustable individuals. So
can I trust you?
Right.
Good point, because anytime I was working in a SCIF, it was always top secret or top secret SCI. So good point. And then I'm thinking what a SOC is, what, maybe up to secret?
Possibly,
yes. Or like that post said, what was it? CUI, right? Confidential, unclassified.
Right.
There you go. Boom. All right, so now let's look at these responsibilities. I want every aspiring cyber professional to look at that very first bullet point under responsibilities. It says provides effective, consistent, and clear communication to all key technical customers, team members, and other contact teams. Look at that. This is a high-level cybersecurity position for the U.S. Trademark and Patent Office. The very first KPI that they want, communication. Communication. So anyone who's ever talked to me and I told you, hey, you need to be an effective communicator, that's the number one responsibility they listed on this position. And by the way, we do have another post that we have that's talking about active listening. So check that one out, because this is it right here. This is proof. You want access to that $115,000, $150,000 a year job. Use those two ears, right? Effective communication. Now let's drop down to qualifications, and I'll let you take this one away.
The first bullet point in qualifications lists that the individual must have at least 5 years of related experience in cyberspace operations, network security, computer forensics, network forensics, cyber threat analysis, cyber threat hunting, penetration testing, insider threat detection and mitigation, or incident detection and response.
So what are they actually saying with that? So, okay, we'll start with cyberspace operations, right? This is saying that whoever wants to apply for this position, they need 5 years of experience or related experience in cyberspace operations. What does that look like?
Where an individual is going to get that experience or obtain that experience, like I said, a lot of the experience that they want with the network security, cyber threat hunting, penetration testing, these are all specialized offices that are in a SOC. They are specialized offices that have specialized capabilities that provide specific services to an end customer within a security operations center. So an individual had to have at least worked in some sort of an office that provides this specialized capability or service just to be eligible, or what they're looking for in the ballpark of experience with this specific job posting.
So my takeaway from that is, so you had to have already worked in the SOC or a SCIF, something related, right? For at least 5 years. That's what this post is telling you. So you must have had, or you have to already have had 5 years of experience in the SOC environment, whether it's cyber threat hunting, penetration testing, whatever position, but you had to have already had 5 years experience. Now, you worked in the SOC at one point, haven't you?
Yes.
So to even get to that position to where you can work in that SOC, please share how much experience do you need to have before you can even get inside that SOC?
By the time I reached working in a SOC equivalent type of position, I was at least 15 years into my cyber career. And so with the specialized positions that were in there, the individual peers that I worked with in those specialized areas had at minimum 5 to 7 years of experience coming to the table or coming to the organization. So they already had the foundational skills in specific disciplines. As it says, you can teach the job, but you have to learn or build the skills along the way. So they had at least 5 to 7 years of specialized type of experience when they walked in the door.
I don't know if y'all caught that. So this job posting is saying you need to have 5 years of experience working in the SOC. What JJ just shared was most people on average had about 5 years of cyber experience before they even got to that SOC. So even though this post is saying you need 5 years of working in a SOC, 5 years of experience doing that, what they're really saying is truly you need a combination of at least 10 years experience, right? Am I understanding that right? Because it takes you you need to cut your teeth in one of the cybersecurity disciplines, right? To be even able to get to that position you can work in that SOC. Then you need at least 5 more years of experience to even be considered for this type of position. Does that sound about right?
It does, because when you're starting with the fundamentals, typically when you start in the cyber and IT field, you're not in cyber security yet. You're doing not really much of anything to do with security until you learn the foundational aspects of how technology works. Yep. How devices communicate with each other. We haven't even talked about securing the devices, but you got to know how the devices talk to each other first and foremost, along with a myriad of other things. And so where you're going to get your experience first is typically learning the inner workings and the foundational aspects of learning how technology works before you get to the actual security portion. And that's where you get to the actual security operations center, where it's more focused on specific security disciplines.
Good point. So, and I just want to just put that in plain English for whoever's watching this and doesn't understand what he's saying. So, I'll just share my experience because I've worked in SOCs and SCIFs myself. But before I even got there, I started out in infrastructure. Yeah. Right? I was an infrastructure person. I was building Ethernet. I was running fiber, splicing fiber, and then eventually I was at the help desk. And then from there, I got into network control centers and stuff like that. I crossed over learning more of the network side, administration side, and that's what led me to working in the SCIF, right? So, like you said, right, I needed to know how the infrastructure connected devices, how the devices communicated with each other. I needed to understand the flow of data, right? I needed to know all those foundations. I needed to know how that data went across the network, how that network gets the data from point A to point B before I even consider how to secure that data, right? You got to understand the flow of data, how that data is manipulated. You got to understand that first before you can even understand how to protect it.
I think one of the main questions also is, why is it that you need to know that first before they'll even consider you for a security type of job?
Good point. Good point. That's kind of like knowing, you gotta know how to lock the door before you can even lock it. The door in your house, right? You gotta know how to put the key in the keyhole, turn it before you can even lock the door and secure your house, right? And I think that's step one is, what's the key? Okay, this is what a key is. Step two is, where do you use that key? Okay, I put the key in the keyhole. Now the next step is, okay, I need to turn that key to actually lock that door to secure that house, right? And that's to your point is, what is the data, right? That the data is the key. Where does that data go? The data goes from different points or nodes on the network, right? Or it's being stored maybe in a server or in the cloud. And for those who don't know, and when they say cloud, it's just some server form in a data center somewhere, right? You got to understand where that data is going, right? Yeah. Because if you don't understand what the data is, where it's being used, how it's being used, where it's going, how do you know how to secure it?
Correct.
That's what I took from what you just said, right?
Yes.
The why do I need to understand the fundamentals first, right? Because what I see a lot, and it's being kind of promoted that, oh, you can start a cybersecurity job with no experience, but really? And I'm not trying to, throw any shade at anyone that's putting out content saying that, but I'm concerned that if people start believing that, those are bad expectations, man. Like, and that scares me because my data is out there, right? I want my data to be protected. So, I mean, just kind of really just putting that in plain English, man, is I don't see if you read this job announcement, right, they want you to know what you're doing, basically.
Correct.
They want you to understand the fundamentals of data. So if you need at least 5 years experience before you even get into one of these positions on this job announcement, let's go cyber threat analysis, right? Because I've seen some different people saying that cyber threat analysis is a entry-level cybersecurity position. In my opinion, that's a bold-faced lie.
No, that's not true.
How is a cyber threat analysis a entry-level cybersecurity position when we just had a conversation right now explaining that you need to first understand that data, right? Because they use kind of fancy words like tag, cyber, IT. It all boils down to just data, right? And how can you analyze something if you don't even know how it works?
Exactly. I think one of the main points too is what type of liability do you become if you don't meet the necessary years of experience?
Good point.
And that's why there's so much of an emphasis on the amount of years of experience, the areas or disciplines that you have the experience in. You want to be able to show a hiring manager or even the company that you are providing services for is that you know what you're doing, that you're not a liability. And so if I'm hiring someone, it really doesn't matter anything, even outside of the cybersecurity business.
Yeah.
I want to be able to hire someone, an electrician, a mechanic. I want to be able to hire someone knowing that if the individual has at least 5 to 10 years of experience,
I want to know you know what you're doing.
I'm trusting them with the services that they're providing. Yes.
Good point. Good point. No, that's a very valid point. So those of you who think that you could just go from zero to cybersecurity real quick or overnight, I'm telling you right now, no. That's and because any company that's willing to take someone that's inexperienced on like that at that sensitive of a level of a position,
yes,
huge liability.
It is a liability.
Good point. And I've always told people, sometimes I teach classes, you don't want to be the reason why a company is losing money. And there's plenty of case studies out there, companies that got breached, right? Anybody can be touched when it comes to cyber, right? And you don't want to be the reason why that company got touched, i.e. a data breach. Because that's really what's at stake, right? And we're talking about intellectual property, customer sensitive information like payment information, social security numbers. That's to your point, right? You need to cut your teeth. You need that experience so you're protecting that sensitive data. And that's what this job post is saying. Like, we're expecting you really to have 10 years of said experience. And you got to understand what you're reading when you look at a post like this, because it says 5 years here, but you got to understand what it takes to become a network forensic specialist. I've never been a network forensics person, but I've had to interface and work with the network forensics teams when I discovered a breach and had to isolate a system and make sure it was connected so they can run those forensic scans, right?
Absolutely.
But it takes time to get that level of expertise. And so even network forensics, right? It will take you some years just to become a savvy network forensic specialist. But they're telling you they want you to have that 5 years of that experience on top of the experience it took to get you to that position in the first place. So good point. So now let's look at that's just the first, the very first bullet point of the qualifications. We're not going to go through all of them, but it's a lot. So let's just skip that. Let's skip all these different bullet points. So those of you who think that there's a cyber security entry level position, look at this. No, it's not. There's no such thing. So let's look at minimum education requirements. Candidates should possess a bachelor's degree from an accredited institution in information technology, computer science, information systems management, cybersecurity, or related field. Now, my take on this is, typically I'll tell people you don't need a degree to have a successful cyber career, but this is a senior level position, right?
Yep.
More advanced position. So in this scenario, I would say, okay, yes, make sure you have that degree checkbox checked off, right? Because now you're moving up. Now you're at that 10 to 12 years plus level of experience. So I am okay saying yes, get that degree, because what I will say was, I had 17 years in the game, cyber game, right before I went for my master's degree.
Mm-hmm.
And when I went and got my master's degree, it taught me to connect the technical side with the business impact. So that's where I see at this point now, at this level of experience, you're a savvy technician. So yes, that traditional education, I think, will help someone who's really technical savvy connect the technical principles with the business impact, because you're really getting to that level. What you think about that?
Oh, absolutely. Especially when you talk about a senior level position, you definitely want to have the academia or the collegiate experience and knowledge that you obtain there to be able to translate the business side of the job. Because at the end of the day, understanding who your customer is and what your customer does from a business side, it definitely it helps you to better respond to the needs of the organization.
Good point. And for some reason, man, and you've been around these folks and with that mentality to where just because you became a technical genius, you still got to think about the needs of the customer. Because with no customer, there is no business. Now, I get it for those of us that may have come from the government sector like you and I, right? There was a learning curve when we separated from the military, because our mission active duty was one thing, but out here in the private sector, the end of the day is about that bottom line. How do you increase that bottom line, i.e. make a profit? You have to keep your customers happy. So that's cool. Be a technical genius, but just don't lose sight of the fact that your technical skills are just a business enabler. It's just to support that customer, and more specifically for a cybersecurity role like this one here that we're talking about, you need to protect that customer.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
And a lot of people lose sight of that. So that's the minimum education they're looking for, a bachelor's degree, right, for this type of position. And then look at the minimum certification requirements. Look at this list.
A lot of GIAC certification.
I saw that GIAC, EC Council, Certified Network Defender, Certified Incident Handler. Good stuff, right? GIAC, I'm not going to go through all of these, but one thing I do want to highlight is the ISC Square Certified Information System Security Professional, Cissp, right?
Yeah.
So this stands out. That stands out. And I'll let you take the wheel on this one. Tell me a couple of things, or share with the audience a couple of things about that Cissp certification.
Well, from a technical standpoint, if you're a cyber nerd like I am and like you are, Geronimo,
I'm a cool nerd.
right? We tend to feel like the CISSP certification is the creme de la creme.
Creme de la creme, baby.
Right? It's the pinnacle of what we would aspire to obtain. But just to get this certification, ISC Squared requires you to have at least 5 years of experience within their two of their 8 domains, ISC Squared domains.
5 years.
And
5 years paid experience.
Yes.
5 years paid experience. We can't miss that one. So what JJ is saying, to his point, right, is ISC Squared requires anyone who wants to go and get this certification, you have to have 5 years of experience, paid experience, in 2 of the 8 domains, right?
Correct.
I want to make that clear. You don't get that entry level.
No.
Right?
No.
It takes time to have 5 years of experience. And so taking so the first step, right, is you take that exam. So you can pass that exam.
Correct.
But there's a other portion of that process. What is it called? Where you have to kind of get validated?
You have to apply and list your experience, and your experience it has to be evaluated. It runs through the evaluation process to where they're taking a look and making sure that you did what you said that you did. And once it's validated, they will then award you with the actual certification.
Got that, y'all? So yes, you can put it on your application that you have that experience, but they will validate it. They will make those phone calls, emails, whatever, to say, hey, technician XYZ person said they got 5 years in these 2 domains. Is that true? So you cannot fake it. You cannot, we're getting to the level in the game, the cyber industry, you cannot fake this.
Yeah.
You got to prove it. You have to prove it. So if you maybe you watch something else that said, yeah, you can get into cybersecurity with no experience. No, not at all. What JJ just told you, you need for Cissp, the creme de la creme of cybersecurity certifications, right? You got to be able to prove it, man. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. Let me see what else we have. So that's real key. So we covered some skills that you need. Active listening, right? We talked about that. Communication, effective communication. We talked about the experience, where you needed to have 5 years of experience in I don't know, mid-level, advanced SOC related positions, SCIF related positions. If you were, dealing with the government and you worked in a SCIF, bachelor's degree for this. I mean, you want that $150,000 a year. Education, communication, experience, and then certifications. And again, right? If you, in my opinion, if you were gonna try to get one of the certification on this list, you might as well just go for that Cissp, in my opinion. If you're gonna do it, you might as well do it.
Yeah, definitely. The key takeaways there, definitely the being an effective communicator, being an active listener, and then having the 5 years of experience within one of the SOC related type of positions, coupled with a bachelor's degree and a industry recognized certification such as a Cissp. And just, you have to peel back the onion and really ask yourself collectively, how many years of experience really am I looking at? It might say 5, but when we dissect this, we're really looking at an individual 10 plus years of experience total. There is the exception to the rule. There may be individuals that might be able to do it between 5 to 10 years, but we're trying to be realistic when we break this down. What a hiring manager or a recruiter is actually looking for.
Yep.
And one thing that we didn't cover as to why it says in the very beginning that they might be willing to pay for the certification.
Good point, right? We did say let's stick a pin in that. So now we're there. We're there. So good point. So I'll take this one. So when I was, still active duty, I was an information system security manager. And one of the things I had to manage was the 8570 program. You can Google that. That's a different conversation. We'll cover that later. But as an 8570 manager, I had to make sure that the cyber professionals on our base, managing our network, right, had the appropriate certification for their position. And the reason why this is saying that, one, you have to have one of these certifications is because the Department of Defense have already identified what certifications individuals have to have when they're working in certain positions. So that's what's driving this certification requirement, right? And that also goes back to why this company said they're willing to pay for your boot camp, because it's one thing to prove you have the academia education, i.e. the degree. It's another thing to show that you have that experience. Now on this piece, what they're saying is they're willing to pay for you to get one of these certifications because by law, you have to have one of these certifications. And now this is something that's driven by congressional acts, right? You cannot get around that, especially if you're working on Department of Defense. And I'm not too familiar with the U.S. Trade and Patent Office, but when I'm seeing this has 8570 written all over.
Yeah, it's a contractual obligation that this company, when they won the contract, with certain positions, probably in the line items, there's a provision that probably says that an individual must either have that certification or obtain it within a certain amount of months, and typically it's within 6 months.
Typically it's 6 months. And I'm gonna tell you what, as an information system security manager, you get someone who comes and works on your network and they have this requirement, they're just sitting there for about a few months. Oh, that was frustrating. Yeah. And I was that guy pinging that person, hey man, you down about 4 months.
Yeah.
Where you at with that certification? And then when that 6 months was up and that technician didn't have that certification, I'm going to the program manager. Hey man, your company owes us a different body because you're charging the government XYZ amount of money, but the government isn't getting the return on that investment.
Right.
So don't miss that piece. Now, if you feel like you can go into this job and they say, yeah, we'll pay for your boot camp, just know you got 6 months to get that certification or you're out of here.
That's right. It is a condition of employment.
Condition of employment.
So, yes.
I.e. meaning you have to have that certification to keep that job. So This is really good, man. I think this is a good step in the right direction to kind of just clarify expectations. A couple of just things worth mentioning. Clearance, you got to be able to get a security clearance. This is saying it doesn't specify what level, but it does say applicants selected will be subject to a security investigation and may need to meet eligibility requirements for access to classified information. And that could be anywhere from secret, top secret SCI.
Yeah.
So on and so forth. So anyone that's young that's looking at this, stay out of trouble, please, because I need you to be able to get a clearance.
Yes.
And anyone who may be trying to look in to get into the government sector from the private sector, same thing. Stay out of trouble if you want this type of position. But this is really good. So I think this is now we're starting to set realistic expectations on what it takes to get one of those fancy cybersecurity jobs. That's like all the buzz right now, right?
That's right.
This was good. So stay tuned, y'all. We're going to keep breaking down these type of job announcements and demystifying what it really takes to have a successful cyber career. Stay tuned. Until next time, cheers to your success.